Hey everyone, welcome back to Bachelor Happy Hour. I'm Joe.
And I'm Serena.
And we are here today with our guest, Clayton Eckert. Is that how I say your last name, Eckert?
Yeah, you said it right. Good on you. People don't get it right.
Yeah, I could see. Well, yeah, I could see that, but I've heard it before, so I guess that's a little. It's kind of like a cheat code. Anyways, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to. Did we do this like 3 years ago? It was probably the last time that we hopped on a podcast together.
Yeah, it's been a while. I actually don't know if we've had you on since like after AFR with you and Susie together.
Yeah.
We had my first interview with you, Clayton, was on Clickbait. Like, I want to say
After Michelle's season, probably.
It was before The Bachelor aired, but you had already filmed, and you were probably not in the best headspace.
Oh gosh, no. I met you guys, and then was in the hotel lobby, right? We all had drinks. Yeah.
Yes, because we were at Michelle's finale where they announced you as the Bachelor, and then we all went out for drinks after, which was very fun.
I probably wasn't a joy to be around just because I was really swimming upstream at that point, like really in a bad headspace and trying to hold it together, but I feel like people could still feel my pain.
Yeah, I feel like you'd finished filming. There was definitely a level of excitement because obviously you'd just been announced. It was like the start of everything. But I remember you were like, I'm reading everything. And we were like, Clayton, don't do it. And you're like, I have to do it.
Yeah, I did. I don't do it as much, but I did because I was a people pleaser. I have a little bit of that in me still. But I was searching for answers of how I could please everybody. So that's what it was rooted in. I was like, I'm looking for criticism, but constructive criticism. And I want to see what people are saying and see if I can fix it. And I guess after about 2.5 years of that, I realized I can't, control that.
Yeah, but also so normal. I mean, the internet's commentary on you can feel all-consuming when it's to that magnitude.
I mean, you guys get it. It feels, you go from hardly anybody knowing you to like, it feels as if the world knows you. And everyone's talking about your business, and you go out to eat and you get a picture taken and it finds its way online. And that happened with my dating life post-show. I went on a date in Kentucky, and next thing you know, I'm on the Jumbotron, and then it's posted online. And I mean, you guys get it. It's like, it's just a lot to basically be like, okay, now everything I'm doing is being analyzed. And, I want to be portrayed in a good light. I don't think anybody's just like, hey, I want to destroy my reputation. That's like my whole goal. It wasn't mine, but felt like I was in jeopardy of doing so. So I was like hypersensitive to everything that was being said.
Were you aware of any of that before going on the show? Did you realize how much of your privacy was going to be jeopardized by doing this show?
No, I mean, this is where, some people could say that, I mean, it was ignorance. It was based in ignorance, 1,000%. I knew about the show growing up. I had exes that watched it. My mom's her favorite show. So I was very aware of like how the show, I was aware of its presence, but I wasn't aware of like the ins and outs. And I said to myself when I got brought on and then they made me the Bachelor, I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody that's went on prior because I don't want to be influenced. In theory, that sounded good. I was like, I want to just be myself. So I don't want to like talk to any prior Bachelor or Bachelorette.
I get that too. I get that because you want to be original too.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah. But I will say though that it was rooted in ignorance, and I thought that I had a really incorrect assumption that most of the people that went on reality television I couldn't relate to. I thought, oh, you're different than most of these people. And what I found is I'm not. I actually have a lot in common with most of the people that go on reality television. So, but that was a place where I thought, again, my ego, I thought that I was, I don't want to say above, I just thought I was so different. And I'm like, talking to these people isn't going to do anything good for me. And that was an ego, thought process, and that really came back to bite me. And it also I placed myself in a place where like I felt like I couldn't relate to anybody. It's like, well, that's because you're not willing to like talk to the people that can relate to you. So yeah, I basically said I'll do this all on my own, and I'll be able to like have be successful because I looked at the track record and I was like, it's a low success rate. Most people don't make this work, so therefore I need to like go do my own thing. And
right.
That was stupid.
At what point do you feel like that mentality shifted and you started to realize you were connecting with these people that you felt like you were so different from. And do you think it hindered you because you didn't think you would be capable of making the mistakes that had been made in the past?
Yeah, I had an inflated ego. I just wasn't willing to admit it or was aware of it. And so, I mean, I meant well, but I would say that I probably didn't open up until about like 6 or 8 months ago. I had this mindset shift where I realized I'm like, dude, you got to stop trying to fight this and basically separate yourself from this experience. For one, it's done a lot of really great things for you. It's made you live this really unique life, which is awesome. You know, like I get to live a very fun and exciting life that brings a lot of unknowns. So I was like, hey, listen, like this has changed your life for the better. I found my sense of self through it all. But then I started realizing, I'm like, you keep trying, you're pushing away people that, one, probably realize you're doing it and they're just giving you your distance. But also, two, it's like nobody else can understand what we've went through until they've lived it. And so I was like, if you want to feel like you have a community, then you got to stop running from that. And so I've been like more open now with like having conversations with people and realizing that I'm like, these people aren't your enemies, they can be your friends. And there's a lot of great qualities in people that go on TV. I think, you're a lot of people that go on TV are risk takers. They're willing to step into unknown environments and, they're creative and they have a very open mind, which those are the people that I like to associate with nowadays. I'm like, I realize that there's a lot of that kind of type of person within the reality TV world.
I think you're like everything you're saying really, I mean, I could really relate to it as well. And I think it happens to most people that go on the show and either become the lead or get big after the show. And like for me, when I was like, oh, I want to be successful in this now. You look at it like I have to separate myself from everyone else to show that I'm different. Like I'm not that I'm bigger than the show, but I'm so much more than the show. I could do so much more outside of the Bachelor world. And then you almost, it ends up hindering yourself because
Well, you end up alienating yourself.
yeah. And it is, it's usually, like you said, it's all ego driven. You're like, I'm bigger than this.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because also too, I mean, there's a comparison culture that I mean, I find myself always getting wrapped up into from one season to the next. It's hard because like you try to avoid it, but I get compared to every bachelor. Every season, it's like this guy's better than him, and so, my sense of self for a while kept getting rocked, especially like Joey, I mean, was, the most beloved bachelor that I'm aware of in recent history. And so, there was like this, I see online, we love Joey. He's so much better than Clayton. And, like I started to even find myself being envious of him. And I had to basically check myself and say, it's not his fault that like he's, he's in the position that he's in. Yeah, and I've briefly interacted with him and he seems like a nice guy. So, but it's hard because like, yeah, you're in this environment where there's been, I guess, 29 other bachelors or 28. And it's like, you want to like just be able to be yourself and not focus on anything else. But like once we're in it, it's like you're never let go from it and people will bring you up and it's like it never ends. But again, there's a positive to that. It's like, the opportunities. I think people were surprised I came back recently for AFR. Like, why would he come back on this experience after what, the show did to him? And I think for me, it's like, there's a sense of accountability. I also played a part in the way that I was, portrayed on TV. So I'm like, they also it was a big blessing. I mean, the things that have come from it. I'm like, I don't hate this show. I hated the producers at one point for sure. But then I realized, I was like, Clayton, I mean, they're not monsters. Like they have to create an entertaining TV show. And also like, you didn't have a body double. You were in there doing all those things.
When did you come to that realization?
I think like 6 to 8 months ago. Yeah. I don't,
really? Just that recently, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I for so long went back and forth. I mean, when I first came off TV, people asked me, how I felt about everything. And I said, oh, there's more than, the edits there's more than just the edit. That was my way of pushing blame on the producers. But I had a producer one day bring up to me, he said, hey, you want to take credit for all the good things that were shown on the show, but the second that something goes south, you don't want to take credit for it. Some of these dates that you went on, like, did you plan those dates? And I was like, oh, no. And they're like, well, yeah, so you take credit for those dates, but you don't take credit for the negative stuff. Like, how is that fair? And I was like, no, that's true. Like,
That's a
so
great point. I
it
feel
was a
like
great
it
point.
applies to a lot of people that have been on the show.
Yeah, like people that when they have they look really great, they take this, woman or the girl takes a guy on this extravagant date and everyone's like, that's so sweet. It's like, yeah, but did you really plan all that out or were you just the one that showed up for the date, right? Like you're getting all that credit. And so there's a lot of people when they come off TV that want to take credit for all the good, but then they want to say, no, like the producers made me do that. And it's like, okay, but the producers maybe also influenced you to do those good things too. So
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why I've always been a big advocate of not reading comments because I don't even want to read the good ones because if I'm going to accept all the good things people are saying about me, then how do I brush off the bad? Like if I'm going to accept the good, then I need to accept the bad, and I know how much like you could read 100 great comments like Clayton's the best, but it's that one comment that's going to just drive you totally insane.
yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I think I said at one point in my head, it was like one negative comment held the weight of 50 positive comments. I mean, it got
For
to,
sure.
I would see in my DMs somebody saying like, I think you're awesome. And I wouldn't even read the message, but then I'd see like, you piece of, like, you know what? And I'd click in on it because I was like, what are they saying? So I would start skipping past the positive comments. Because again, I was just looking for how can I get, as a people pleaser, how can I get everybody to like me? Why does this person hate me? And then I got to a place where I realized that people don't actually hate me; they hate what I remind them of. So a lot of times when I'd respond back to these people and say, "Hey, like, just you're entitled to your opinion, but why did you feel the need to send me this? Like, why send it in the first place?" And I actually had a lot of people that would respond back and say, "You know what? You reminded me of an ex-boyfriend or somebody, a guy from my high school, and I'm just really projecting my own insecurities onto you." Or some variation of that comment. So then I realized I was like, okay, people don't know me. There was a podcast I listened to, and there was a really cool quote which shifted my narrative. They said, "If you have a problem with me, call me, and if you don't have my phone number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me."
That's a
I
good quote.
think, yeah, when I heard that quote, that was like that's when I was really able to let go of a lot of like the opinions of strangers because I was like, that's a good point. If you don't have my phone number, you don't know me. So, you can't judge me, or you can, but like really, you don't know what you're judging. You're judging, a version of me, but that's not the complete version. So, yeah. So it was, a lot of like little things over time in these last 2.5 years that I started to like incorporate or hear, and then it shifted my narrative slowly. So when the show reached out recently, it was like, yeah, we'd like for you to come out. It wasn't, I was at a place where I was healed, and I'm like, hey, I don't have any anger or resentment towards you guys. I don't, want to burn a bridge. And like, it's fun to go back and, sit there and be like, oh, wow, I did this 3 years ago. Right. Like, it's just, it's something that is unique that like we've done. And, it's fun to like go back in time and sometimes and just like relive those moments. Just because it's like, it'll be a point in my life where I don't get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about
Wow.
comparison.
Well, not to cut you off, but very impressed. Congratulations. You really seem to have like beat it. Like mentally, you are in a way better place than when we first when we hung out in Paradise when we were there to
Yeah.
film. Like
Yeah,
you really,
too.
I feel like you've really you figured it out
I've just
for
gotten
the
to a
most
good
part.
place. I found self-love and self-confidence, which again stemmed from all of the catalyst was the TV show and the negative blowback. So I think the version of me on The Bachelor wasn't the real version of me. I would say it was like the fabricated version or the facade that I built that I thought the large majority of people would accept. And this goes back when I was in medical sales. I was told by a coworker to essentially blend in. If you stand out in the OR, you're not doing your job right. You should just blend in. And so that's kind of the approach that I took to life. I don't want to stand out. I just want to, be present, make my money, and go through life that way. But I have this creative side of me that's like, no, I want to express myself, and I don't want to like confine myself to a box. I want to just be me. And so when everybody seemingly hated me when I came off the show, I was like, well, I hate myself too. I don't even like this version of me. So, either build back up this same version that everyone doesn't like, or build back up the real version of you. And so, yeah, I decided to build up the real version of me. And I was like, okay, what would I do if I didn't care about other people's opinions? And dancing was one of the things. Getting earrings was one of the things. Having a hairstyle was one of the things. I had a buzz cut for so long because it was like, that's what a typical white dude will have, or like a short little head of hair. And I was like, no, I want to like have style. I like mullets, I like having, the earrings. I think they look cool. And so, I just started doing all these things, and then like it attracted the people that I wanted in my life. Like I connected with one of my good friends now because I was out at a bar and he had an earring, he had earrings and a mullet. And so like we happen to have a lot in common. We started talking about mindfulness and mental health. And I was like, look, like it's now effortless. Like I don't have to try to wake up and be somebody. I can just be me, which is so much easier. So yeah, I mean, thank you for acknowledging that you see some growth. I certainly feel it. And that's, why I want other people to like kind of see my progression and realize that like no matter how far down like the valley you get, like there's a way out. You just have to like put in the effort day in and day out. So I'm happy with where I'm at, but certainly there's more room for growth.
Behind every successful business is a vision, bringing it to life with
affordable access to win a quiz at futurehealth.com. Get a Ibrance palbociclib medicines you take.
That's the overall increased identity theft protection for tax season and beyond.
Seasonal collections every month. So you can love wearing your lingerie just in panty sets for as low.
Like, we love this person, and also we still.
Definitely. Well, we're sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. I was gonna just bring it back to the panel for a second because you did mention the sense of comparison of like, we love this person and also we still hate Clayton, or like this person is so much better than Clayton. I mean, like the messaging is so unfair.
It is unfair, and it's just mean. It's like, why do we have to
ridiculous.
do that?
But to segue from kind of that internet mentality that we see going on to this panel, how do you approach this panel without it feeling like I'm here to represent like, well, Grant's about to do something bad, but at least he didn't do what I did, and kind of like almost put yourself in harm's way for a continuation of this like negative comparison that you're stuck in? Like,
Yeah,
what's your mental approach when you step into this panel? And what do you want your goal to be with, because I think I would be nervous about that if I was in your shoes.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And that's certainly a perspective that, I considered. I thought, hey, okay, they want to bring me on to essentially let people know that like it's possible to fall in love with multiple people, but also in a way be like remind everyone that I'm the guy that, broke the record or whatever for most people that I fell in love with. So it's like reminding everybody that, this guy sucked, and that was certainly like something that crossed my mind. But then, I thought about it and I was like, no, dude, you did this and that was real, and you fell in love with each of the women for their unique characteristics. And, again, I'm mad at myself that I apologized after the show on certain things that I'm not sorry for. I was basically apologizing because I wanted people, I was like, oh, everyone seems to be mad at me. Let me just apologize. And then at one point I was like, oh no, I didn't fall in love with all three of them. I just fell in love with one, and that was hurtful to the women that, that I expressed feelings of love towards. And I was like, that's not true. You did fall in love with all three of them. So, but again, I was just saying whatever I could say to get people to like me. So, as I was like going into AFR, this last one, I reminded myself that I was like, Clayton, you did at the time what you thought was best. And so you made decisions and stand by them. I mean, I don't regret any of the things that I did. I would do them differently now, 3 years later. But in hindsight, like I look back at that whole experience and I'm like, you weren't a monster. Like half the people said you were. You didn't mean, anything. You did what you thought was best. So ultimately give yourself grace. And I'm not embarrassed by anything that I did. I think I was received poorly, but like, okay, so what? I mean, I took the actions and I can live by them. So going on AFR, I was like, just be you, and they told me like, hey, you got like 20 seconds to respond. So don't start blabbering like everyone knows that I talk, I'm long-winded. So I was like, hey, I'll say my little 20 seconds and smile and that'll be it. And that's what I did.
Do you feel like at any point you were like losing sight of who you were as a person due to your people pleasing tendencies after the show?
1,000%. I every day I woke up, I was just reading new comments and then taking them to heart and saying, okay, these people think I'm stupid. So how do I prove that I'm not stupid? Like I remember a point when before it was revealed that Susie and I were together, I was dropping like subtle clues on my Instagram. Like I would like make a post alluding to the fact that I may be with somebody. Like there was a post where I was like staying at the edge of the bed and like Susie's leg was like, you could see the outline of a leg potentially. It might be there, may not be. I also had another post where I was like looking back at the camera and I said, looking back at my past, present, and future. And because people said I was stupid, I was like dropping clues and nobody was figuring it out. And I'm like, you're all so stupid that like I'm just toying with you all. But again, my ego was just like, you're not stupid because you're over here playing games with these people. And again, like I was just like wasting time playing games when it was like this, like, I mean, it was just like, what are you doing this for?
Were
and it
you
was
trying to prove it to them or yourself?
both.
Yeah.
Both, but really myself. Yeah. I was trying to prove to myself that I had value, and that I was actually inquisitive and smart and I had emotional intelligence. But the reality is like, I mean, I don't think I had the emotional intelligence that I definitely didn't have like I do today. And I still have a long ways to go, but I grew up in an environment where, household of 3 boys, no sisters. Basically everything we did was physical and never talked about emotions. My dad was old school. And, so it was like, yeah, a lot of these things I was trying to prove to people I had, but then I realized what I did and didn't possess, and there was a lot of constructive criticism where people are like, hey, he meant well, but ultimately I don't think he's aware of the fact that like we understand where he was coming from. But ultimately like he keeps trying to explain why he did what he did as opposed to just take accountability. And that was a comment that was said multiple times that really hit me. I'm like, oh, so I'm trying to be right because a people pleaser oftentimes wants to be right, right? I feel like if I had, if I had so many times to be wrong in someone's, somebody's perspective before they basically canceled me out of their life. Like that's the way that I used to think. If I'm wrong enough times, this person would be like, all right, strike 3, you're out. So, I always felt like I had to be right. Well, then like as I started to progress mentally, I realized I'm like, no, it's not about being right. It's about understanding, and taking accountability. Like that's the next level of mental maturity that like you have to, be able to get to. So, it's just been like, I think reading the comments was both destructive, but also what I needed, because I needed people to hold me accountable, and I wasn't holding myself accountable.
I also think it plays a part, and I think Grant's a little similar to you in this area where you guys both you lasted like midway through the show, right? Like you went home like what, like 6 or 7? 8. So, in that respect, you don't have as much experience on the show, where I do think like the contestants that either get heartbroken at the
like
very end, like a Joey, who could then go on The Bachelor and be like, okay, like let me like actually look at what happened to me, this experience, and now I could do it differently, or at least like know how other people feel in this process. Where when you get picked off at the middle and then you get thrown as The Bachelor, I could see you looking at it like, can you really fall in love on this show? Like, was I really in love with Michelle? Like, I just don't know if you even take it as seriously.
Or just go in with like much less information to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, I never fell in love with Michelle. So I kind of just was like, oh, all right, yeah, this is what I thought reality television was. Like you go on here, I got knocked out in the top 8 or whatever. And I was like, all right. So then when I became the Bachelor, I was like, well, hopefully within these 30 women, there's at least one person that I'll have interest in. But I remember thinking like, I don't know, like I'm kind of picky. I have a certain type, or I'm looking for something. And I mean, I'm single still at 28 years of age. So like, obviously I haven't settled down for what reasons. Well, I haven't found exactly what I'm looking for. So yeah, I went in being like, maybe, but I was nervous night one. I'm like, I don't know if I'll be interested in any of these girls, like before I saw them. And then the second they started stepping out the limo, I was like, all right. I'm like,
but fair, because you're like, I've been on one season and I didn't fall in love. So there's no like reassurance. Like, I know that I can fall in love in this environment. So I feel like you're going in with that mentality of like, we'll see if I could even fall in love. You probably go in like no guards up to an extent. You're like, I'll throw my heart out there, no problem. Like, what's the risk? Because you're coming off of a season where you were not necessarily heartbroken. And then it kind of, we hit the other end of the scale with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I fought it until the last second because, I had, I think I had 5 women or something that's like started expressing their feelings towards me. And then I was like, oh, I'm not opening up still. I knew in the back of my head, I was asked early on by a producer, like, could you see yourself falling in love with multiple people? I said, no. They said, why is that? I said, because that'll be an absolute mess. If I get to that place, I won't know how to navigate that. And then I did it. And it's like, I've even mentioned that on AFR recently, but that was the truth. Like, I remember I was coming down in an elevator at Reykjavik, Iceland, and I started hysterically laughing. And they're like, what are you laughing at? I wasn't on camera at this point. And I said, I'm so effed. And they were like, why? I said, because I just realized I fell in love with multiple women. And they were like, get him into a room,
They're like on walking,
interview
like,
this
hi,
man.
can we get interview one prep for Clayton?
But I was laughing because I was like, I'm seriously so screwed. And typically humor is a way to like divert, away from feeling like you're in a threat, or, like adversity is coming. And it's like, I was just like laughing. But then I realized, I was like, I have to tell these women, you do feel love towards each of them. And it's 3 people. So it was like this weird feeling. And at that point, I mean, there was maybe like, I don't know, 7 days left. So I was like, not only did I just realize this, but now I have to go tell them all right away. But I was excited. I was like, I get to tell people I love them, So like in that moment, I was like so excited. So I go tell them, and it's met well, and they're excited, because a couple of them were like, hey, if you don't tell me soon, I'm going to close off. So I was like, yeah, I also like need, like, I get that. Like, you've told me, but I haven't told you. So naturally you're going to pull back, and I don't want that to happen. I want to fully open up to you and vice versa. But I knew things were, again, like my head like was all over the place. I remember I was on a date with one of them, and I remember looking at them and being like, I don't want this to end. I wanted to like date all 3 of these women. And I was like, you can't do that. It's like, that's how crazy my mind was. Like, I was like, I just want to keep doing it.
You're like, on the next season of Sister Wives,
Behind every successful business is a vision, every step of the way. With Chase for Business
To weight loss meds like Ozempic, Zep, get approved and start losing with Ibrance, palbociclib, a Pfizer product, and about all the medicines you take.
Whether you're looking for thoughtfully designed bras, so flattering,
military veterans and active duty service.
Wait, how do you think, so where you're at mentally today,
Yeah.
how do you think you would handle the situation now if you were the Bachelor and you would fell for multiple women? You're near the end.
Well, I would communicate times 1,000. I think, that's where, and I think it's shared responsibility. I do wish a couple of the women would have been more, communicative. I felt like they could have done more, but on the same front, I should have asked more questions. I wasn't asking enough. So this time around, if I were to do it a second time, I would ask way more questions, so that there aren't any surprises. Would I hold myself back from like falling for multiple people? No, I would do it. If I fell in love again with multiple people, I would do it. I mean, it's if you give yourself permission, you can do it. And I don't think like the environment allows for it. If you do it correctly, in my opinion, if you are, play the bachelor role as it should be, which I don't know, is there a right or wrong way to do it? But I'm like, if you're going to date multiple people, then you should be also willing to like stay open to all 30 of those people or however many. So falling in love with multiple people, if you're doing it correctly, is just inevitable in my opinion. But I mean, again, you could find a bachelor that'd be like, no, you find one person, you zero in on them. That's just not the way I'm hardwired. I mean, but I also am a monogamous person. I don't never dated multiple people at multiple, in real life and don't plan on it. But I would still find myself being like, yeah, this show allows you. Where else can you go? And I say this was the one thing where it tricked my brain where I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I was on a group date. I kissed this girl. We keep talking, her and I are off alone. Another girl comes in, is like, hey, can I steal you? She goes away. Her and I start talking. About 5 or 6 minutes in, I go in for the kiss. She stops me. She goes, hold on, wipes off my lips. You have lipstick on your lips. And then goes in and kisses me. I'm like, I just remember my brain being like, okay, things just don't, this isn't real world. As in, like, things operate differently here. Like, that would never fly in the real world. But because, like, you're in this environment where you're given permission by the women.
I don't know why that story has rattled me. Like, I was on the show, but I'm like, whoa, it's just like such a like specific example of, exactly what you're saying. Something that would never fly in the real world, but that it could totally happen multiple times when you're the Bachelor.
So when you give yourself permission, and I was given permission by all the women, the producers, and the audience at the time didn't exist. It was, just filming. So it's like I was given permission, and I finally gave myself permission to be like, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize each of these relationships. When I'm with this person, I'm 100% with them. When I'm with this person, I'm 100% with them. And then when I'm alone, that's when I have to take the time to like break down each of the relationships. But, I still to this day, I'm like, I stand by that. I think like I did it the way that I think the show certainly wants it to be done. But I was like, hey, like this would not fly in the real world, but we're not in the real world. So this is the way that like this makes sense to me. And I want to, give this a fair shot. And I don't want to leave anything on the table. So but that tripped my mind up. It was instances like that where I was just like, yeah, like Clayton, you can't take real world values and like situations and apply them to this environment. It does not fit. So.
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense because you basically like as you're going through it, you have to remind yourself that like this is okay. Like it's okay to fall in love with multiple women. Like it's okay
to do things that feel abnormal.
Yeah, but then the audience watches it back and they're like, "No, actually, it wasn't okay. You fucking asshole. Like you shouldn't have done that." And you're like, "Wait, but everybody said it was okay." And then all the girls that were giving you validation are also jumping in on the audience train, and they're like, yeah, Clayton, you're an asshole. Like you are an asshole. And then you're like, oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's a pile on, and it's that's when it's hard because you're like, wait, like you were okay with it, then, but you're not okay with it now, but then there was so many experiences. Like there was a women when had my women tell all, there was a girl that I was out on the boat with in San Diego a week prior with friends. And hey, Clayton, oh my gosh, so great to see you. Hugs me. We're hanging out. We're talking. And then come women tell all, she's at my throat. I mean, only on full attack. And then at the end of it, she comes up to me and was like, hey, so how have you been? I was like, what was that? And she's like, oh, Clayton, it's just TV. Like, come on now. Like you like, don't take it too seriously. And I was like, no.
You're like easy for you to say when you're not the one getting attacked publicly.
I was like, you're chilling on a boat. And then you're calling me an idiot, later. Like, but then again, now I understand that. And I think, again, I say all these things and someone might be like, see, well, reality television is not real. I'm like, no, that's not true. I also don't stand by that. I'm like, there was times when I had to play a role, but 80% of the time I was me, or was uninfluenced or, like just went in and was, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Like there's certain times where we have to maybe play up a narrative, but overall I was like, at the end, it was what you saw was real. So there's absolutely real elements to it, but again, like some people have motives, and I don't think that's a shock to anybody. And so I had to realize that I'm like, oh, people are playing roles here. Not everybody, but some are. And so this becomes this whole psychological game of like, who's here for the right reasons, who's not. And I think that's what's enticing. I'm like, oh, it was kind of fun until it wasn't.
It's also, people experience it differently. Like I went home night one, and I remember going home being like, because of my ego, because I was so embarrassed to go home night one, in my head I'm like, well, that show's like fake, like it's all bullshit. And then when I go back on it, I make it all the way to the end, I'm like, oh, this is real. I have real feel. So I could see how a girl that goes home, whatever, week 3 on your show is like friends with you in the real world, but like, it's just TV. We're just putting on a show because people have different experiences.
Okay, I think that's a good place to stop the first half. Thank you everyone for listening to Bachelor Happy Hour, and make sure you stay tuned because we will have part 2 with Clayton coming up very soon.
Thank you so much for listening. Bye.